everyone, Metallian Magic here, and I'm going to be opening up this Shadows over Innistrad booster pack to do a draft pick, pack one, pick one analysis video here. A couple quick notes. First, please watch the Fat Pack unboxing video that I am putting up around the same time as this video if you are interested in that. I usually do a booster box opening at the beginning to kick off. I usually put that video up first to kick off a new set. I had a little trouble acquiring my booster box at the same time as I acquired my Fat Pack, so I'm going to be getting that on Monday. I'm filming this on Friday of set release, and I said the same disclaimer at the beginning of my Fat Pack unboxing video, but that video will be up next week, so it will be up a little bit later than usual, or ideally next week. I'm going to really shoot for that as a goal, but that being said, let's open this guy up. Also, I want to mention that in my last pack one, pick one video that I did one for Oath. I made a pretty big error in not taking not giving Eldrazi Displacer the credit that it deserves. And this is an important thing to note about opening a pack when one has not drafted the set, which I'm going to draft for the first time tonight with Shadows over Innistrad. But I played Sealed, I played in a pre-release, but I didn't recognize. Oop, one moment. Sorry about that. I had to silence my phone. Right. So I was saying that I knew Eldrazi Displacer as a 3/3 for 3 would not be, its baseline is okay. Its floor is not super low, but a few of the factors I thought about when I analyzed that card at the time were, this is in a color that doesn't really fit the colorless theme, blue, black, red. Those colors all have many more cards with colorless activations or colorless matters, things like Blinding Drone. And sometimes you're not going to be able to, I figured that its ability, I basically misevaluated how easy it would be to pick up colorless sources if you wanted them, and how powerful its ability would be, not just on its face, but in the context of the format, because I hadn't played the format yet. My point is, I grossly undervalued the card, and made a mistake in not saying that would be the first pick in that pack. But that being said, I think it's totally reasonable to go back after a period of time and say, wow, I hadn't played with this card yet, I hadn't played the format yet, I hadn't really talked to people about this card, and I misevaluated its role in the format based on these factors. So this is an educated guess here, and this is an educated guess based on things that I've listened to or read. In this case, I have done a little bit more research than I was able to for Oath when it comes to limited leading up to my first draft, but this format is still fresh, and so I'm going to do my best to guide us through pack one, pick one here. So we've got Silberland Snapper, which I don't think is going to be our first pick. Most likely, I would hope that it isn't. Vessel of Ephemera, which I think is fine. Probably, not something I'd be happy to first pick, but Vessel of Paramnesia, Shard of Broken Glass. Nothing jumps out at me so far. Gone Missing. Byway Courier. There's some decent cards in this pack so far for sure, but nothing that jumps out at me as common that I would want to first pick. Grotesque Mutation, Vampire Noble, Howlpack Wolf. So now we're on some uncommons, and Ravenous Bloodseeker is our first uncommon, followed by Obsessive Skinner, and then Highland Lake. Nice. We have a To the Slaughter as our rare, and a Pious Evangel that flips into Wayward Disciple. Then we also have a Swamp and a Clue token. So, sometimes you do open a pack where your rare is simply worth taking. I'm not sure if that's the case in this instance. On the one hand, To the Slaughter can be instant speed, boom, kill that, removal. The word Planeswalker on this card is going to largely be irrelevant in Limited, and so the second line, the Delirium basically reads, if there are 4 more card types among cards in your graveyard, that player sacrifices a creature, and congratulations, you have Delirium. So evaluate this card in Limited as if this Delirium text didn't even exist. You know, it basically just reads that. Actually, it basically just reads that without the word or. So, is just an edict for 3 at instant speed a first pick? I'm not sure. The reason I say I'm not sure is against someone who's trying to curve out in an aggressive red-green deck, by turn 3 they might, I mean, especially if you're on the draw, one of their first 2 creatures might be expendable to them. The thing is, the sacrifice, I think, is rarely going to allow you to kill the creature you want to kill. If you're playing against someone who's creating a bunch of spirit tokens or has the green enchantment that allows you to create human tokens when your creatures die, then this is just terrible. This is probably better in a control deck where you have a lot of other removal, because you can use your targeted, well, I shouldn't say this is target player, but you can use removal that, like, let's say you're in a black-red sort of controlling deck. I could see using, things like Murderous Compulsion, Fiery Impulse, Lightning Axe, to kill the creatures that you want to kill, leaving them with a single creature, and then using your To the Slaughter to slaughter that straggler. But that being said, this is one of those cards like with Eldrazi Displacer that I think I don't know enough about the format yet. Are people trying to go wide? Are people trying to create a lot of tokens? Even the decks that aren't are people trying to curve out up the curve 2, 3, 4 with creatures. Is killing their worst one not worth a first pick? It's probably worth a card in your deck most of the time. And in an aggressive deck, it could just get a blocker out of the way. But I mean, they can even sacrifice a tapped creature. Yeah, it's... Okay, well, let's take out the cards that we're not first picking. So we're not first picking Gone Missing, Shard of Broken Glass, Vessel of Paramnesia, Snapper. Courier is serviceably fine, but we're not first picking it. We're not first picking this. We're not first picking this. I'll admit, I think that the green-red deck that can be medium to heavy on the wolf-werewolf theme is going to be very, very good in the format, but I don't think I would first pick this over some of these. This format is not one in which first picking, there aren't very many formats, unless you're in a format where like a certain color combination is so ridiculously good compared to everything else, but other than that, I don't see a reason why you would consider Highland Lake. I love the art. It reminds me of Skyrim. One of the first lakes you come across in Skyrim kind of looks a bit like this. So I think that leaves us with these as possibilities, and it probably isn't Vessel, but I just left this in here because again, with how the format goes, a white-blue deck that is going to attempt to kill you with flying creatures, make a bunch of spirits, perhaps has an interest in acquiring Delirium. I think this will be a good card in that deck. And just a serviceable card in white regardless. It creates 2 chump blockers if that's what you need. Bloodseeker is a good early madness and potentially Delirium enabler, but mostly, Bloodseeker is something that can allow you to madness out a turn 3 Incorrigible Youths, or madness out an early Lightning Axe, or not Lightning Axe, Fiery Temper. I meant Fiery Temper. Like a turn 3 Fiery Temper that allows you to maybe play Fiery Temper and another 2-drop. It's also a card where the threat of activation is going to be troublesome for your opponent in certain situations, and a card that works well if you have any way to pump its toughness. If it ends up reaching 5 toughness, or if you just pump it to +2/+2 with for example, maybe +1/+1 counters from something like Obsessive Skinner, then you can activate the ability twice. Obviously, if you do that currently, it's going to have less than 0 toughness and die, but as a 1/3, you can pump it to a 3/1, but as a 3/5, for example, you could pump it to a 7/1. So these aren't necessarily, I'm just going through like things that the card can do. I'm not necessarily saying this is a reason to first pick it, but I do think that it's a solid card in the right deck. But I don't, Obsessive Skinner, fail case, it's just a 2/2 for 2 on turn 2, or just at any point in the game, but if you can actively acquire Delirium, which I do think green is going to have an easier time doing than some, if not all, of the other colors, then it's going to create a pretty powerful advantage over the course of a couple of turns, and that's something that I think green wants to, like, I could see green-black being a grindy Delirium-focused deck, but I could also see like some green-white decks caring about Delirium and being a bit more on the controlling side, even though I think the default for green-white is going to be a bit more of a, like, token, investigate, human thing. I also wouldn't discount the Evangel, because it's sort of like, it's like a beefier Soul Warden. It's on one side, and then sacrifice another permanent to transform it means that you can sacrifice a land later in the game. You can sacrifice a clue token to do this. You can sacrifice, just a human token or a spirit token. So there are a lot of permanents that won't be too difficult to let go of. And I think in white in certain decks, and then he flips into a drainer. Whenever Wayward Disciple or another creature you control dies, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. He also becomes a 2/4. So this card is quite good, and it's basically just a white card. I mean, it turns into a black card on the back, but you don't need black mana. You don't even need to play this. I mean, your deck can be blue-white, and you can play this. So, I don't think this is still in the discussion. I think it's between these 4, and I'm kind of not sure. This is one of those packs that doesn't have a clear front runner, in my opinion, and I think early on in the format, taking either what you think is going to be a card that could lead you into a good archetype, or a card that you want to get experience with and just see how it plays in the format is a worthwhile thing to do. I think because white could potentially have a token generation thing going on, this guy can almost be not exactly a build around, but he can just give you a bunch of incremental advantage throughout a game because of the fact that his triggers on both sides work well with stuff that white wants to be doing anyway. But I don't know how high impact he's going to be in terms of actually allowing you to, he seems kind of, he gains you life, he drains your opponent. I don't know if the drain thing is going to become that relevant unless you have some sort of way to sacrifice things reliably and ways to make tokens reliably. I think this guy is a great madness enabler for one of the colors, and a color combination specifically of black-red that really wants good madness enablers. I also think that curve out kind of aggressive red-green deck is going to be quite good, but this Delirium thing on Obsessive Skinner works better in a grindy, longer game green deck, maybe green-black, like I said earlier. And this is just removal, but it's sometimes removal that's going to just be sideboarded out against someone who creates a bunch of humans or spirits or something like that. I'm going to say that I'm kind of ranking them like this right now, where, like, I'm not really considering taking this. this is one of those things where, like, I want to see how prevalent decks that can just sacrifice a creature and not care, or for that matter, even sacrifice a creature that has value out of the graveyard. Like, you definitely don't want to cast this if their only creature is the Chaplain that can be exiled from a graveyard to create spirits, or if, you know, it's like the Scob, the 3/1 guy that can be reanimated. So there are definitely situations where this is just going to be like, you know, I mean, sure, there are other removal spells that just target a creature that you wouldn't want to use on those creatures anyway, but there are things that exile, like the 5 damage red burn spell, and you just give them too much choice over perhaps sacrificing a creature that doesn't matter or that's actually fine for them to have in their graveyard, I think, in this format. So I think it's between these two, and I think this guy is quite good. I think if this were tonight, because I kind of want to try out the and sort of see how good Enabling Madness early in an aggressive deck can be in this format, and this can also be just fine in like the aggressive red-green deck I was mentioning, I would probably take Bloodseeker. But I'm really not sure. I'm kind of on the fence between these two. I could definitely see taking Evangel, but I think my first pick is between these two. I'm going to go with this for right now, but it's by basically just like, my reasoning is basically just, I want to try this deck out early in the format, as a, you know, and potentially have options to go into another deck that this guy fits into, as I already said. Whereas this, it is a human, and that works well with a lot of cards in the set. Yeah, this is tough, but I think you could make a reasonable case for either of these right now, and these two I think are kind of in the consideration group, but unlikely to be a first pick over these two, at least right now, based on what I'm seeing with early impressions of the format and pre-release play. So if anyone strongly disagrees with me, please let me know in you know, a respectful and constructive manner, because as I said regarding the Oath of the Gatewatch video, like, I didn't claim that my Eldrazi Displacer pick was, or like lack of pick was 100% right. You know, I'm always open to discussion that causes me to think differently and reevaluate my thought process, as long as that conversation and those opinions are presented in a mature and constructive manner that's designed to further learning, and not just sort of like, you know, oh, that was lame, why didn't you pick that? Like, that doesn't really help anyone learn or grow. It's just kind of childish. So, and if anyone has a problem with me saying that, fine, but I think that's what it is. So I will see you guys back here fairly soon for a full Shadows over Innistrad booster box, and I will also hopefully soon be doing some more deck-related videos, like maybe a deck tech or an opening 7 mulligan decision video. So check back for those in this spring season. And until then, this is Metallic Magic signing out.